How many more children have got on our streets, Prime Minister? How many more children? How many more children, Prime Minister? You go, make a real change, Prime Minister. Make a real change! Get our children!
Stand here and see the sea of faces is so moving. It's a tribute to everybody who's here. The town of Southport, as we come together to stand in solidarity as a town with those who have had life-changing tragedy and everybody who has felt the effect of that.
Horrific. When I heard about it, it's just heart-wrenching. I think shocking is something that definitely falls into place. It's just unbelievable. Such young children and particularly girls targeted. It just shows you that this, for me, is about violence against women and girls and knife crime, and the fact that society, we start with the government, but society and individuals, we need to do better, because it's nothing more, nothing less. It just captures the heart of everybody, because we can all relate to it. Such innocent children subjected to such brute force. So we know the horrific scenes that we've seen, and we know that it's gone around the world, it's viral. Even Taylor Swift has expressed her shock at this. Nobody's untouched by this in society. The trauma will affect everybody. People that witnessed it, the 2 adults that were injured, people that came to the rescue and emergency services. That scene of those young children being, stabbed on the floor, bleeding, will stay with them for a long, long time. For police officers, there will be support. There'll be occupational health. There'll be counsellors, because it's such a major incident. They will get all the support. And obviously, they can go to their own GPs to get counselling and support. For emergency workers that turned up, they're the real heroes, because policing is such an occupation, you just don't know what you're going to be dealing with. And that is one of the most nightmares of everybody, whether you work as an ambulance, a part of the ambulance service, the fire service, the police officers, and obviously members of the public, because we know that they were a member of the public that actually went and helped the police contain the suspect and carry the children out of that house. So the trauma is immense, but there is support. The police will be working with obviously the trauma goes to the families of these these babies, really. There'll be support for them from the family liaison officers. There'll be support from occupational health, from GPs, and any medical help they need, and the psychological aspects of that. You don't think about yourself when you're in those situations. The first priority is for the 2 teachers that were there, one doing the yoga classes and the other one, they would have just, their instinct would have taken place just to save those children. Selfless police officers, when they go towards an incident, they don't think about themselves, they think about public safety. How can they minimize injury? How can they protect life? And that's the natural instinct on anybody that was faced with that situation, that was just walking past or called for help when they heard the screams. You just go into that auto mode, and I think that's what's happened to the people. And I honestly, from the bottom of my heart, wish those two adults, those two teachers that are injured, I wish them such a quick recovery, and the other children, the 5 other children that are critically ill. Violence against women and girls remains at epidemic levels. Knife crime is out of control. So the government have got a real job to put together a strategy that's a holistic strategy that deals with knife crime. And they need to take violence against women and girls seriously. For me, I've said before, this is about violence against women and girls and knife crime combined. And we see this every day playing out. Recently, we've seen the Hunt family that were affected by it, the mother and the 2 daughters that were killed by a stab wound and crossbow. Before that, we've seen women being murdered in the street. So this isn't unusual. It's becoming more and more and more prevalent. Violence against women and girls needs to be treated on a national emergency. It needs to be treated as seriously as counterterrorism, and then it will get the resources, but it needs to go back to basics. It needs to go back to schools. It needs to go back to education, and everybody needs to start to think about, you know, what we can each do, men and women, to counteract violence against women and girls. Obviously, there'll be reassurance patrols in the area because people are scared. They're shocked. They're scared about what's happened in their area. And so they need to have that reassurance from the police that they've done everything. Hence, the police have come out quite quickly to say it's not a terrorist incident, and the fact that it's an isolated incident, to give that community that reassurance. But the community is shook. They are shocked to the core. And so it will take a little bit of time for things to settle. But the community is supporting each other as well. They're holding vigils. They're going to the scene. People need to do that to express their sadness, their anger, their distress.
Like millions of others, I was utterly appalled as the story unfolded yesterday. And we clearly have an enormous problem in the UK with these knife, sword, bladed weapon rampages. In just recent weeks, we had one in Hainault where a 14-year-old boy was murdered and 2 police officers suffered horrific life-changing injuries. A man's been charged in connection with that. I won't mention it any further. But if we go back to the 13th of June last year, Nottingham, Valdo Calacane, with his murderous knife rampage, where he claimed the lives of Grace, Barnaby, Ian, and seriously injured, a number of other people. There is a massive problem. Knife crime has risen by 78% in the last decade, and that's just the crimes that are reported and the authorities know about. The problem is even wider than that, because so many people are carrying knives and not being detected. The time has come now for policing to look at what they're doing and move heaven and earth to get more police officers onto the streets, patrolling and utilising stop and search as and when appropriate, because that is one thing that will serve as some form of deterrent, I hope, and may, of course, lead to the arresting of people carrying knives. It's beyond compare what is going on now, and something drastic and urgent has to be done.